Chapter 3 verse 1 says, "For behold, in those days and at that time," which means in the end times, pretty much our time. Like I would say, when scripture says in those days, at that time, it means the end times. Here it's saying both at the same time, so it confirms that this will happen for sure. So it says, "For behold, in those days and at that time, when I bring back the captives of Yehudah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Yahushaphat." Yahushaphat means Yahweh is judge. So the valley of Yahushaphat means the valley where Yahweh will judge everybody. So it says, "I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Yahushaphat." This can be seen also as a prophecy that is already being fulfilled. And actually I was reading some news regarding a rabbi from Israel who was saying how the New World Order is a necessary evil for Messiah to appear. And he was saying it his way, but reading this shows us how, my point is that one of the things that he was saying sounded like he kind of was for the New World Order, even though I know that was not the point, just in case you get to read it or whatever. The point would be that, from my point of view and taking in account the New Covenant, of course, therefore the book of Revelation, we see how Yahweh prophesied that there would be a New World Order. So for everything to be fulfilled, the New World Order will have to be established, and it will last for only 42 months, as we see in scriptures. So the fact that the New World Order is being established at the moment, and last year with the COVID thing, and still, of course, everything that has happened since last year has been helping the powers that be to push their agenda for this world to go into that New World Order. So the fact that here it says, "I will also gather all nations," is part of it, because for all nations to gather against Yahweh to go and fight in the war of Revelation 19 in Harmageddo or Harmageddon, in that war Yahweh will have gathered all nations which are against him to be destroyed at that moment. Obviously there will be some few people from different nations who won't get into that rebellion, but most of them will, as we are seeing at the moment that most people are for the New World Order and for everything that the government provides them and tells them they believe it, and all of it. So, "For behold, in those days and at that time, when I bring back the captives of Yehudah and Jerusalem." Now, as I was saying, when it comes to the war of Armageddon, that war will be at the end of the last 7 years, what is known as the last week of Daniel. So last 7 years will be when the most of the book of Revelation will be fulfilled, and at the very end, the war. Then 1,000 years later, the judgment, last judgment. So when it comes to those last 7 years, in the middle of those 7 years, there will be a harvest of people. So Yahweh will gather his captives, the captives that are around the nations on the four corners of the earth. Yahweh will gather them up to him, the chosen few without having to experience death, while the many will have to go through death, but then they will resurrect and be justified, and they will enter. So after the harvest, the last 7 plagues will happen, and after those last 7 plagues, the war will begin. So I'm saying all of that because we see it here in chronological order. And it says, "For behold, in those days and at that time, when I bring back the captives of Yehudah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Yahushaphat. And I will enter into judgment." As we see here, Yahweh mentions that place, obviously because he's going to use the place literally, but also because of the name that was given to it. So he uses the name of the place because he will judge, and he shows it right there. But that is to show that every time that a name appears in scriptures has a reason for it. So through the meaning of the name, we can get a better understanding of the revelation given in whatever verse or chapter we may be reading with those names on it. So Yahweh does it in a very clear way from time to time, like here. So it says, "I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Yahushaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there. On account of my people, my heritage, Israel." My heritage. Obviously, the one who is the heir and gets all the things of the father when he dies through the testament is it depends obviously what the father writes on the testament, but my point is that the Almighty Creator, as the Father, wrote in the Torah everything that would be given to Messiah, and Messiah appeared and he died for us, so that the promise of the Torah can be given to us, and not only in the Torah but the prophets and the writings, so the whole Old Testament. So also another point that I wanted to mention regarding this, as written in John 1 to verses 11 and 12 of John 1, it says, "He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of Yahweh, to those who believe in his name." These two verses are very important because Yahweh came to make a people of spirit, not of the flesh. But it all started with the flesh as an example for us to later understand what the spirit was teaching us through the example or shadow that was given through the flesh. For the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. The letter connected to the flesh. That's why those who follow the letter interpret things according to the flesh and end up doing things that are not for Yahweh but for the Elohim of this world, which has his eyes on the things of men. So here we see that it says he came to his own, meaning in the flesh, to Israel, and his own did not receive him, for they killed him. But as many as received him, those who believe in him, to them he gave the right to become children. Therefore they can get the promise, the heritage that we were seeing in the previous chapter. So he gave them the right to become children of Yahweh, to those who believe in his name. Those who believe in his name. So only those who believe in the name of the Son, Yahushua, will have the right to become children. And therefore, going back to Yoel, it says, "And I will enter into judgment with them," the nations, "there, on account of my people, my heritage, Israel." And as we know, in Yahushua, there is no Yahudi nor Greek. There is no male nor female. We are all one in Yahushua, for the congregation is his body. So it says, "On account of my people, my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations. They have also divided up my land